So this is going to be a little bit of a strange what if, but this is what if female Deku was a baker. And I know that this is going to be very strange, but she has a mutation quirk, and her mutation quirk is a cat quirk. No, 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 no. A badger quirk, so she has little ears, and she has a heightened senses and a tail. And she has very skimpy clothes on 90% of the time. So she's currently she's currently 4, and she's getting into hobbies and seeing what's happening. And her mother's currently baking something for her 4th birthday, and she asked if she could help. And her mom says sure, and they start baking together, and she thinks it's fun. So they get working, and Bakugo is male in this one, and sorry, he's going to be the ship. No, actually, yeah, Bakugo's going to be the ship in this one. So later that day, shows up at their house and says happy birthday to Izumi, and Izumi says thank you, and they have a good time. And Bakugo's birthday rolls around, and she asks her mom and Mitsuki if she could bake the cake for Bakugo, and they both, Mitsuki and uh, Izumi's mom, because it's not Inko in this one, says sure, why not? And she bakes a cake, and it looks handmade. So it doesn't look perfect. It doesn't look bad per se, but it doesn't look like it was made by a professional. And Bakugo thinks this is by the old hag, and he goes, "Old hag, you're getting sloppy." And she goes, "I didn't make this." And he goes, "Then who did?" And Izumi feels a little self-conscious because he called her cake sloppy, and he, she points at Izumi and says, "She did." And looks at her and goes, "What?" She goes, "Yeah," and she starts stuttering. So we're gonna skip. They're 4. Bakugo's slightly younger. So, we're gonna skip. UA's a college in this one. 14 years, so she's 18. And she called up Nezu because she's well known as a birthday baker in the entire Japan. She's known as also the best baker in Japan at this point, and a lot of heroes go to her bakery for birthdays. And she calls up Nezu saying, "Can I deliver something for one of my friends on UA grounds?" And Nezu goes, "Sure. Can you bring me some tea?" And she goes, "What kind of tea?" And he goes, "My usual." And she goes, "Definitely." And he goes, "Yes." And he says this, and Izumi's already hung up, but All Might's around the corner, being like, "Sir, you seem pretty happy today." And he goes, "Yeah, uh, we're having a special guest in, I think she said tomorrow or the next day. We're having a special guest tomorrow or the next day. And it's going to be for Class 1A, so warn them." And he he says, "Yes, sir." And he runs off. All Might runs off and runs into Class 1A, and Aizawa's teaching, and he says, "Aizawa, we have an announcement." And he goes, "Can't it wait?" And he goes, "No, straight from Nezu." And he goes, "Okay, say it." And All Might says, "This special announcement is for this entire class. We have a special guest coming, and she's very important, so treat her with respect." And he says, "That is all." And he goes, "Okay, God, I'm done with teaching. You guys could do whatever the hell you want. Go to the dorms, I don't care." The dorms are built earlier in this one. And Aizawa walks up to All Might, who's about to leave, and says, tomorrow or the next day. And he goes, he never told me, so be ready either tomorrow or the next day. And with that, Bakugo goes, um, can I go speak with Nezu? And Aizawa goes, uh, sure, whatever, problem child, just make it quick. And he goes, yes, sir. And he runs off to Nezu's, and he walks into Nezu's office and asks, what day did she say she'd come? And Nezu goes, I think she said tomorrow or the next day. I don't remember. I just remember T. And he goes, okay, I understand. So he goes back to the dorms, and everybody's like, are you okay? And he goes, yes, I'm fine, damn extras. And they're like, okay, he seems more aggressive. And he wakes up the next day, and there's the smell of a cake, and he goes, oh God, no. And he walks downstairs all dressed nice looking, and he walks into the kitchen, and he goes, hi, Izumi. She goes, oh, Bakugo, Kachan, Katsuki. I brought you your favorite. And he goes, you know you don't have to come to my school and give me a cake every year. And she goes, I know, but I still wanted to. And so she pulls out a cake, and it says happy birthday on it. And it has his favorite manga's name on the top. And he goes, if I didn't treat you like family, I would definitely have killed you by now. And she goes, that's no way to talk to the person you're engaged with. And he goes, you can stop saying that out loud. And she goes, but come on. He goes, fine. What do you want? And she goes, my usual. And he goes, I'm guessing it's shut down for the day. And she goes, yep. So he walks out in his tux and his nice clothes, and he walks down the steps of 1A, walks into the 1A classroom, or he walks down the steps of the 1A dorms, walks into the 1A classroom like a minute later, and says, Aizawa, special guest is abducting me for the day. So just fail me for the day, I don't care. And he walks out, and he goes, okay. And then he gets a call from Nezu saying, don't fail Bakugo for the day. Make sure he passes today. And he goes, yes, sir. And he's like, who the hell came over? And everybody walks in saying, there's this cake, and this Badger Girl was in the dorm, and he heard Badger Girl, and he's like, were her ears black and white? And they go, yeah. And he goes, damn it, Nezu! And he's starting to curse Nezu, and and they're like, something happened? And he goes, no, you just met a celebrity. And they go, wait, what? And he goes, yeah, you just met a celebrity. She's known as she's known as Japan's greatest cook. Also, she's known as the world's greatest baker too. And they go, wait, what? She's our age. And he goes, yeah. Her cakes are very expensive, and that's what she specializes in. And they go, okay. And anything else we need to know? And he goes, no. Just don't touch that cake until she arrives, or she's going to be pissed. And they go, about that, she already cut a piece off. And he goes, okay, then don't touch the rest of it. We have to ask her to have a piece, or she gets pissed off. And they go, okay. And so Bakugo and Izumi are on a date, because Izumi has a ring on her finger, but she doesn't care, but she flaunts her extremities and everything around with her to everybody. And the only one who doesn't react too much is Bakugo, and that's why she likes Bakugo. And at this point, Bakugo is talking with her at a lunch date and seeing what is different in the storefront. And she goes that nothing's different, just that the cake orders have slowed down because either the cakes are too expensive for them to, or the cakes are too extravagant for them to pay for. And it makes sense. You do any shaped cake and can make it work. It's just, there was that one cake. And he goes, that wasn't your fault. The person who set it down too hard. She goes, yeah, but still, I could have prevented it from doing that if I just used the skills I learned from that class. He goes, hey, stop beating yourself up because of that. The person who set it down dropped it, not set it. So it's not your fault. And she goes, still, I feel bad. They didn't get what they wanted. He goes, they did get what they wanted, but that dumb server dropped the cake. And she goes, fine, I'll stop beating myself up about it. And so she asks, how's your uh, work going? And he goes, I'm not working yet. I'm still just working out, training. And she goes, oh yeah, by the way, I put a secret ingredient in the cake. And he goes, no, you did not. And she goes, yeah, I did. I got you the next issue. And he goes, how? It's not supposed to come out for another month. And she goes, I just delivered a cake to him or her. I don't remember their gender. I didn't really pay attention. I just said, instead of paying me, why don't you give me the next issue of whatever series that was you asked me for? And he goes, oh my God, that's why I love you. And he yelled this, and Mina and Kirishima, who were off that day, because as I was like, okay, everybody, you get out of class. I need to make some calls. And they go, sure, okay. And so Mina and Kirishima were walking by this restaurant, and they heard Bakugo yell, that's why I love you. And like, what? So Mina and Kirishima are like, okay, so what is this restaurant's name? And they look, and they're like, wait, what? He can afford a 5-star restaurant? And Mina goes, who's that girl to Bakugo? Like, come on. The loudmouth, angry Pomeranian. What is this relationship? And Kirishima asks if she would like to go in because he has barely enough to buy them lunch here. And she goes, no. Why don't we just stake out over there? And she points to a coffee shop and says, why don't we have our lunch date over there and wait for them to walk out and see who he's talking with? And they both say, okay. And they go get coffees at the coffee shop across the street. And an hour later, Izumi and Bakugo walk out, and they're like having fun. They're laughing. They're doing couple stuff, and Bakugo walks her home, and Mina and Kirishima are following them. And Izumi kisses Bakugo's cheek, saying, I'll be right back. And she disappears into the alley next to him, and he just keeps walking. And all of a sudden, Mina and Kirishima feel a presence behind them, and she goes, may I help you? And they turn around and see this woman who has badger features, the ears and the tail go, with the tail being swinging very slowly, and her holding her claws up. And they go, no. And Bakugo, hearing Mina and Kirishima's voice saying no in a normal tone, turns around and goes, oi, shitty hair! And Pinky, what the hell are you doing here? And Izumi goes, "Oh, so these are your friends from school?" And he goes, "Uh, yeah, they are." And they look at Bakugo like, "Oh, we're his friends?" And they look at each other, thinking in imaginating conversation. Mina goes, "We're his friends," and uh, Kirishima goes, "Just roll with it." And they go, "Yeah, we're his friends. We hang out with him after school every once in a while." And she goes, "Oh, good. Come with us then." And she then turns a corner before they are supposed to go to her Bakugo and her's house. And she walks into her restaurant and opens the door for them. They walk in and they see the name of the restaurant. They're like, uh, um, Bakugo? We're, we're at a 5-star bakery. And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes up behind them and whispers, "If you tell anybody, I will kill you." And they just start shaking their head rapidly. And she walks up to the behind the cash register and says, "So, what you want?" And they look at the menu and see all these different kind of cakes, cupcakes, um, coffee cake, anything that has the word cake. And she's found a way to perfect it. And Kirishima's like, "Ooh, uh, uh, ooh, she goes, I know, it's not a very big selection, but maybe you could find something on this menu." And she pulls out another menu, which has 300 more items that are like cakes from around the world. And she hands it to Kirishima, and he looks at this and goes, um, Mina? And he hands her the menu, and she looks at this and is like, "We'll have 2 pieces of coffee cake." And she goes, "One coffee cake coming up." And she goes into the back, and 30 minutes later, she comes out of the back and says, "It'll be 5 minutes." And Baku goes, "You're just getting faster and faster at that, aren't you?" And she goes, "Yeah. It's what happens when you deal with cakes 24/7. 7 days a week. Except for the holidays." And he goes, "Yeah, today is the holiday. Today is the holiday." Ugh. And he gives this most disgusted look, and she goes, "Do you not like me anymore?" And he goes, No. I don't like what my mother made me do. I still like you." And she goes, "Oh, okay." And Mina and Kirishima are like, uh, uh, and he gives them the "I'll kill you later" look. And they're like, "Okay, we're not going to talk." So after another 5 minutes, she comes out with a plate, or not a plate, a box with a coffee cake in it, and a loaf of coffee cake, because it's more like a bread than actual cake. She comes out with a loaf of coffee cake and hands it to them and says, "There you go. Free." And Baka goes, "You got to stop doing that. You're going to lose business." And she goes, "No, that's how I gain business." And Mina opens the box and just smells a small whiff of it, and her mouth just starts watering, and she's, um, "You sure we don't have to pay for this?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's free to Bakugo's friends." And he goes, "I'm so glad I said that, because they would have died back then. But I also don't like that, because now they have a free coffee cake and they're probably going to share." And she says, "One rule on my bakery, for the food from my bakery." And they go, "Okay, what is it?" And she goes, "No sharing unless you say how many people are going to eat it." And they go, "Oh, okay." And they say, "What about that cake you gave him?" And she goes, "Oh, no sharing at all. That's him. That's his only. I'll make another one for tomorrow, but no sharing of that one. Nope, only his." I go, "Okay, that makes sense." And they walk out of the bakery and they say their goodbyes, and they round the corner and they are sweating bullets, being like, "Oh my god, I felt like I was gonna die." And Kirishima's like, "I don't even think my hardening could face her." And Mina goes, I don't even think I could have. I don't even think we could have even survived if she wanted to kill us." And Bakugo's like, "Did you put what I think you did in that cake?" And she goes, "What do you think I put in there?" And he goes, "Your secret ingredient?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, they're in for a rude awakening." And she goes, "But if they're like you and you're friends with them, they're gonna love it." And he goes, "Nobody's like me, and they're barely my friends." And she goes, "So you lied to me?" And he goes, "No, no, 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 I didn't lie to you. They are my friends, but they're not that trustworthy compared to you." And she goes, "No one's as trustworthy as me." So Kirishima and Mina get back to the dorm, and they are sweating bullets still. They walk into the common room and everybody sees them and is like, "Where were you? And what were you doing?" Kirishima's like, "Scary woman, Badger girl, bye." And he runs into his room and Mina goes, "Same," and bye. And she runs into her room and she has the box still, so she opens the box, smells it, and she cuts it in half and wraps up the other half in her room and puts it in puts it on her desk and boxes up one of the other end and runs over to Kirishima's, knocks on his door. He opens it. She hands it over and he takes it and they start eating and they're like, "This is heaven." And they continue eating it and all of a sudden it's gone and they're like, "Oh, wait, what? Huh? What? What happened? What happened?" And Bakugo finally gets back and he takes the cake from in the refrigerator and takes it up into his room and says, "All you damn extras, you better be nice to the person that comes tomorrow, or I'm definitely blowing your faces off." And they're like, "Yes, sir." And he walks into his room and shuts the door, slamming it. And Aizawa walks out of his thing and says, "Okay, tomorrow she's probably bringing one for all of us. So be on your best behavior because she has a sadistic side that you don't want to meet." And they all ask, "What do you mean sadistic side?" And he goes, "So she's known as the world's greatest cook, right?" And they go, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's also because she has a very mean tendency, if people don't follow her rules with her food, for them to taste her worst dishes." And they go, "What do you mean her worst dishes? Doesn't she have a catalog of only her best?" And he goes, "Oh, no, 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 no. Depending on the offense, she'll give you a scaling of 1 to 10, and that depends on what kind of meal you have for the next meal you have." And they go, okay." And he goes, and he looks up on Google and goes, "Damn, she put it down again." And he emails her saying, "Can I see your catalog of your worst dishes?" And she goes, "Why?" She sends an email back, "Why?" Eraserhead. And he goes, just for research." And she goes, "Oh, sure." And she sends him a copy of the level 10 suicide kind of ghost pepper level. "If you're a normal person, you don't want to touch these." And she goes, "That's just my worst of worst. I'm not giving you the rest. I'm sorry. That's confidential." And he goes, "Understandable. I'll see you tomorrow." And she goes, "See ya." And so he walks out with a copied thing and he gives them each a copy and says, "If you don't burn this by tomorrow, I'm going to have to eat some of these foods." And they start reading it. Ito starts reading it and pales at this and goes, "Sir, why did you give us this then?" And he goes, "So you guys know not to mess with her food. She's more," I don't want to say this because Bakugo will probably try to blow me up, but she likes Bakugo more than she likes cooking. And they all look at him and go, what? And Bakugo runs out of his room with an explosion ready and blows Aizawa into his room and says, shut up! That's confidential, dumbass! And he's yelling at Eraserhead, and Eraserhead's like, I know, and then passes out. And Bakugo sees the list and goes, and he gets this wicked grin on his face going, you know you should have burnt that before I saw it. And they're like, so what? And they tried to all hide the paper behind their back, and he pulls out his phone and starts texting someone, and 5 minutes later, they hear a ding dong at the door, and it's dinner time for them now. So Bakugo is like, you guys ready for some dinner? And they go, sure. And Bakugo opens up the door, and he sees her and goes, well, they're my friends, and I'm here to make sure that they don't die, immediately at least. And she goes, okay. She walks into the kitchen, and all of a sudden, they smell this sickly sweet scent from the kitchen, and they go, Bakugo, what is she doing? And he goes, wait. And then they hear a boom from the kitchen, and he goes, almost done. Then they just see this rancid cloud come out of the kitchen, and he goes, done. Time for dinner. And Izumi walks up to Bakugo and says, where's Kirishima and Mina? And he goes, oh, they're eating the coffee cake in their rooms. And she goes, so they didn't share. And she looks dead serious. He goes, no, they didn't. They didn't share at all. And then she goes, good, and smiles again and walks over to the table and places down this big pot of this boiling muck. And she goes, Aizawa, wake up. And he wakes up to this sweet tone, and he goes, yes, ma'am, really quickly, and runs to the table and goes, I'm ready. And she goes, okay. And says, everybody else who's seen the list, come over here, because you're not getting any other dinner. And she looks deadpanned right at them and says that this is the only food they're going to get tonight. And if they want to eat, they can eat this. And for the morning, if they didn't finish this pot, they have to eat the rest of this. And they go, okay. And so Ida's like, I shall take the punishment for my crimes. And he walks over and he looks at the little bowl of schlop that he got, and he takes a spoon, and she goes, oh, no, you got to use a fork. And he goes, but this is soup. And she goes, exactly, you got to use a fork and savor this. And they look at her and go, but you don't use a fork with soup. And she goes, oh, yes, this soup you do. And he pokes it, and it's like Jell-O. And he goes, this soup you do. And he pulls up a bite, and he sees this disgusting amalgamation of meat, vegetables, and oatmeal? And he goes, well, never say never. And he eats it, and if anybody's seen That Time I Got Reincarnated as Slime, when Gapta ate the poisoned food, that's what happens to Ida. Hold on. I need to show you that.
気になる。ゆかじいさんかけはよたってやがる。私は村の周囲の警察に行ってまいります。腹減ったっす。ささ冷めないうちに。落ち着け。 何か取り付いているように見えるが気のせいだ。助けて、大賢者。むぐ
Oh god. Yeah, that's what happens. And he sits back up in his chair and he continues eating quickly before he dies from the poisoning of the food. And they're all like, "What did she put in the food?" And she goes, "Oh, ghost peppers. I put like 10 ghost peppers in here. Jalapeno peppers, some really spicy oatmeal." And she looks at Katsuki and goes, "Why don't you show them how it's done?" And he goes, "Fine by me." And he just takes a giant scoop with a spoon and eats it. And he goes, "Ooh, that one has a good kick. You made it a lot spicier than last time." She goes, "I know. I normally cook with hot pepper flakes and chili flakes." And they all look at her going, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Most of the food I have is meant for him, and most of the cakes I make have a little bit of a kick to them." And she walks up to Kirishima's door, which is currently closed, and she knocks, and Kirishima opens the door, and he's sweating heavily, going, "Damn, this cake is good!" And then he falls to the ground unconscious from the loss of her dehydration from sweating so much. And she walks over to Mina's and knocks on the door, and Mina opens the door, going, "I wish I could have this cake more often." And she passes out on her bed from dehydration. And they're like, okay. And they're just getting weirded out because Mina and Kirishima are not known for spicy foods. Most of them aren't known for spicy foods. Bakugo is known for spicy foods. Most of his food is red from hot sauce or spicy stuff. And now he just ate a spoonful that had the same hotness as 10 ghost peppers and a few jalapeno peppers. And he goes, "Can I have some more of that?" And she goes, "No, you cannot. That's theirs." And she pulls out a bag that has this schlop in it, and she goes, "This is yours." And he goes, "Oh, yes!" And he grabs it and runs to the kitchen, and he puts it in a bowl, and she goes, "Don't you dare microwave that." And he goes, okay." And he takes the bowl and he puts it in a pot and he starts boiling it and puts some more water in it, just enough to make it more liquidy. And he runs into the main room after it's done cooking with a bowl of it, and you could feel the heat from it irradiating off of it. And she goes, "That had 13 ghost peppers put in it. I don't want to tell you how many ghost peppers are in the level 10 stuff. This is level 2. And they pale at this and they go, "Has anybody survived the level 10? And she goes, And she looks at Aizawa and goes, "I don't know." Eraserhead. "Has anybody survived the level 10? And he goes, And he raises his hand slowly, going, "Yes, I barely did." And she goes, "No, you perfectly survived." And he looks at her, and she has her claws up, like she's ready to scratch him. And he goes, "Yeah, I survived perfectly fine." And they go, "Oh, okay. So don't mess with her or her cooking." "Got it." "Don't mess with her at all or her cooking." "Got it." So they eat this schlop that's super spicy schlop. And when Bakugo finally came in the room, they saw ramen. Not the stuff that was in the bag. Ramen. And they look at him and go, "What the hell was in that bag?" And he goes, Congealed. No, wasn't it freeze-dried? Did you freeze-dry it? And she goes, I froze dry it. I put a little bit of water in there. That's why it looked like schlop. And once you put it in a pot and put a little bit more water and made it the consistency of ramen, it basically melted down and fused with the water so it doesn't look like schlop anymore. It looks like ramen. And she starts explaining all this food science, and everybody's like, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. So you're a wizard in the kitchen? And she goes, pretty much. And they go, okay, makes sense now. And now we know not to mess with you ever. And she goes, you should have understood that a long time ago. And they go, we haven't known your name until today, and we haven't known what you look like until today. She goes, my name is Midoriya, and you know me as Deku. And she looks at Kachan, and he goes, and he goes up behind her and says, my Deku. She goes, I'm not a Deku anymore. He goes, yeah, but you're still my Deku. And she goes, still, I'm not a Deku anymore. He goes, I know. And he goes back to eating his ramen, because he knows if he lets it cool too much and doesn't finish it before it cools too much, she's gonna do something really bad to him. And so he finishes and puts his bowl in the sink and then says, once you guys are done eating, I'll wash the dishes. She goes, no. And she looks at Aizawa and says, he will wash the dishes. And Aizawa says, yes, ma'am. And everybody's like, so the most badass guy we have on campus is scared of her? And they look at Izumi and she goes, what are you waiting for? Dinner's served. Because nobody sat at the table yet besides Ida. And Ida ate all of it and was like, I'm good. And he put his plate put his bowl in the sink and went into his room and promptly died. Where you see someone pass out and the little soul comes out of their mouth. That's what happened. And everybody else ate, and the only person who did not have a problem with it was Shoji, because we don't know what his kind of taste buds are like. But I'm saying he's a spice need. He's a spice person. So he didn't have a problem with it. Well, he had a problem with it. He said, this is not enough spice. And she looks at him and goes, oh, you got a competition, Bakugo. And her hearing Bakugo's like, Shoji, please be quiet. And he goes, no, more spice. And he goes, never say that in front of her. And she goes, I accept your challenge. And he goes, I wasn't challenging anybody. And she goes, I accepted it anyway. And he goes, oh God, what did I do? And Bakugo's like, please don't. And he's begging. He's on his knees, almost on tears. And everybody's like, what the hell is Bakugo turned into? And we skip to the next day, and the schlop wasn't finished off the night before. And she walks in and sees that someone's about to walk into the kitchen, and the schlop is still on the table, not finished. And she disappears in a blinding burst of speed, because she's super ridiculously fast and strong for being a just a mutation quirk. And she is in front of this person and says, excuse me, what are you doing? And this person's like, making breakfast. And she goes, what did I say about that? And she points at the big pot that's still not finished. And he goes, if it's not finished, we have to eat it for breakfast. And she goes, exactly. And she walks over to the sink and gets a little cup of water and pours it into this mixture. And this mixture immediately starts bubbling again. And all of a sudden, this boom, a big explosion of this flavoring and scent rises up from the top. And she goes, there you go, it's warmed again. And they go, what the hell did you do to this? And she goes, I just made it really tasty and delicious. And she just takes a big spoon and goes, Could use for a little bit more spiciness. But, who cares? And she walks into the kitchen and she yells to Aizawa saying, "Are you ready for the baking competition?" And he goes, "Oh God, no, 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 please no." And Bakugo heard baking competition when barely he woke up and heard it. And he goes, "I'm going back to sleep." And he puts his head on the pillow and promptly knocks out. And Shoji heard baking competition, like, ooh, spiciness. And he gets up, gets dressed, and he gets downstairs really quickly. And he's like, spiciness. And she's like, because you insulted my cooking, and I didn't really care for this cooking very much, but you still insulted it, I am making you a level 10. And he goes, oh, okay. And he's like, is it going to be that spicy? And she throws in some dynamite kind of peppers where if you take a one bite, your mouth is going to die. She throws in a few of those peppers. She throws in some ghost peppers. She throws in everything spicy on the face of the earth. And her just standing there, and she's just laughing and maniacally, and Bakugo's like, oh God. And he walks downstairs and says, okay, Izumi, you can stop maniacally laughing. And she goes, oh, good, you're up. And she just looks at him and goes, time to taste. And he goes, I forgot. And she goes, no, you didn't. That's why you woke up early. And he looks at the clock, and it's an hour before school. And he goes, I got to get ready for school. And he runs back up into his room, and he was already dressed in his school clothes. And she goes, sweetie, you're not running away from me. And she disappears in a burst of speed, and she has a little tiny bowl, a soup bowl of sorts, with a little bit of this stuff in it. And she goes, sweetie, here you go. And she hands him the bowl, and she goes back down and gets the big bowl from the cupboard and pours the rest of it in and gives it to Shoji and says, there you go. And if you don't survive this, it's not my fault. And he goes, fine by me, and starts eating. And when he eats the last bite, he starts feeling the kick, and he's like, ooh, this is good. And she goes, see? 3, 2, 1, and he falls down dead. Oh, unconscious, but he has a little soul, so it looks like he's dead. And everybody's like, you killed Shoji! And she goes, no, he killed himself by eating my food. So, time for me to bake the cake. And they're like, okay. And she bakes the cake, and everybody's like, are you putting spicy stuff in it? And she goes, that's my secret ingredient, duh. And they go, how? And she goes, just ask Mina and Kirishima. And Mina and Kirishima, hearing the time to bake the cake, goes, oh, yes! And they walk down and they go, so what's for breakfast? And Izumi looks at Mina and Kirishima and says, did you see the list? And they go, no, what list? And she goes, good. And she quickly just turns off the cake making stuff while it's spinning away, and she whips up some eggs and throws some spicy stuff in it and makes it to where it tastes good. And she hands it to Mina and Kirishima and says, here's your breakfast. Make sure you save a little room because there's cake coming. And they go, yes, ma'am. And they walk over to there and they say, oh, Izumi, we didn't finish the coffee cake from yesterday. And she goes, no worries. It survives 3 days straight without needing refrigeration. And they go, okay. So they start eating the egg, and they start feeling the kick, and they're like, this is good. And all the teachers in UA show up in 1A, and they're like, okay, we're ready. And he's like, challenge accepted. And Bakugo at this point is like, I can't breathe. And they look at Bakugo and go, Oh crap. Is she in that mood? And he just slowly nods his head up and down. And Nezu walks in and says, I brought my tea. And she goes, well, good. You're going to need that. And he goes, okay. And he starts brewing his tea on the other side of the kitchen, away from her, because he knows if he gets in her way, she's going to make him eat a level 10 dish. Most of her dishes are level 0, which are just spicy enough for people to feel the kick, but not actually uh, get harmed from it. Level 1 is where they get harmed from it, and level 2 is where they have a chance of dying. Level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are the superhuman dishes that if you survive, you're superhuman. And you'll never be able to taste normal food again. It's got to be spicy of some kind. So, so she makes this cake and she puts it out on the table and says, you gotta wait 10 minutes. It will be done then. I'm going to make everybody breakfast, and if you guys don't eat this breakfast, you don't get any cake, and I'll make you eat a level 2 dish. And just her saying a level 2 dish, all the heroes pale. Uh, Crimson Riot, who's here at this time, had his hardening on, because he normally has his hardening on when he's on hero work or when he's at a hero event. And you can see him paling through his hardening. Which his hardening turns his skin completely charcoal black. It's not a race thing. It's literally his hardening makes him carbon, which is charcoal, literally. Charcoal is carbon. So it makes him the color charcoal. And you could see him paling through it. And they're like, so it's that bad. Okay, some of the heroes that didn't know what the level 2 dish meant, when they saw Crimson Riot paling, they're like, okay, so it's that bad. Good. So eat her breakfast, then the cake. Got it. And Mina and Kirishima are finally done eating, and they're like, oh my god, that was heaven. And they say this at the same time, and everybody looks at them and goes, you're goddamn lucky. And all the teachers at UA see this big pot and they're like, don't go near that. And all the heroes are like, why? What is in that? And they go, we can't tell you or she's going to make you eat that. So I'm just suggesting you don't go near that. And they go, okay. And they wait for their breakfast. And Izumi says, hey, Bakugo, can you get the extra tables from in the closet? And he goes, what closet? And she presses a button in the kitchen, and all of a sudden this closet door pops out of nowhere. And she says, that closet. And she's continuing to cook, and he goes, yes, ma'am. And he gets up, and he grabs all the tables, and he looks perfectly fine now. And everybody asks, aren't you supposed to be dead? And he goes, no, I've had her level 10 cooking before. It's just a little hot for me. And they go, you look dead. And he goes, The original kick is what hurts you the most. And Shoji at this point, who is up on his feet and barely able to walk, goes, that was the best food I've ever had. And she goes, I can make better. And he goes, oh, I believe you, but oh my god, that was good. And she goes, thank you. So instead of doing the sports festival, because this is past the USJ, instead of doing the sports festival, she's cooking for all the teachers. And everybody sends out an email. Sorry, last minute, the sports festival's canceled. No one goes. Everybody who had tickets gets a refund. Sorry. We're sorry. We had some personal issues with the festival. And all the teachers and heroes who were originally going to the sports festival went to 1A instead. And the students are like, what's going on? And one of the support corps students, Mei Hatsume, comes in and sees this badger girl and says, ooh, who may you be? And she introduces herself as Izumi Midoriya. And Hatsume, hearing Midoriya, is like in the Midoriya bakery. And she goes, yep, that would be me. And she's currently still cooking and talking with Mei Hatsume. 5 minutes later, she brings out the first load of dishes with Mei's help. And Paraloader, who's currently sitting at a table, waiting for his food, sees Mei and is like, oh, hey, Mei. And he starts eating, and he's like, this is good. And all the teachers who get their food first are like, this is really freaking good. And Mei's like, after you're done feeding the heroes, can you feed the rest of the campus? And she goes, yeah, why not? Once the teachers and heroes leave, then the rest of the campus can come and have their fill. And Mei's like, do you need anything else? Do you need any help? And she goes, cooking, no. Ingredients, yes. Can you go get me the rest of the ingredients from the cafeteria and all the rest of the dorms? And she goes, sure, I'll go do that right away. And Powerloader, who is done with his food at this point, says, let me help too. And Izumi goes, we'll need all the help we can get. So the UA teachers who are not currently eating or waiting for the cake, which is going to be done in 3 minutes, go help get the rest of the food from the cafeteria and the dorms, because we're going to need it. And they say, yes, ma'am, as fast as they can, and they run off to get the rest of the food. And Ingenium, who is currently there waiting for Izumi to make his meal, says, can I help with dishing out the orders? And she goes, sure. If you drop a single one of these plates, I'm making you eat a level 8 meal. And he pales at this and goes, yes, ma'am. And he starts sending out the orders, and she's cooking as fast as he can run them out and run back in to get more. And she's just in the kitchen humming along, having fun. And she loves cooking so much that she could be in the kitchen for hours and not even notice that she's hungry. And she feeds all the heroes, and then it's time for the students. And she's like, I should go level -1 for the students. And Bakugo, hearing this, goes, nah, sweetie, they can handle it. They can handle level 0. And she goes, are you sure? I don't want to kill them too early in life, because they could be good heroes, and they could bring in more business. He goes, yeah, I go level -1. But for class 1B, go for, one student in particular who is not my friend and does not want to try to be my friend, and I've tried to calm him down before. His name is Monoma. I can give him his food. Make him a level 1. And she goes, why a level 1? And he goes, because he loves sweets, not spices, so he's going to have a very negative reaction to a level 2, like he should have had. It's just, oh, okay, I'll get right on that. And so everybody gets there, all these students get there, and it's first the 1B class, and Bakugo sees Monoma and says, level 1. And she goes, okay. 5 minutes later, she puts out level 1, and then she has little cards that say what level area it is. And she has it from level 10 to level -10. Level -10 is, it's so rich that you can only have one bite before you feel like you're about to throw up from how sweet it is. Level 0 is where it's neutral, where it has a little bit of spice, a little bit of sweetness. Level 1 is where it starts getting hotter, and level 10 is where you take one bite from it and you have a chance of dying. That's how hot it is. So she makes level -1s for most people. The 1A students got a level 1 cake. Hold on, I'll be right back. So Monoma gets a taste of the level 1 dish, and he starts going, it's too hot. And he starts eating more, and he's like, I can't stop eating. I don't know why. And Bakugo's laughing his ass off, because even the one who says that everybody's a loser compared to him is having trouble eating the food he loves and craves. And he's sitting there laughing his ass off, and Izumi looks over and says, sweetie, are you laughing at him for not being able to handle the food? And he goes, no, I'm laughing at him because he gets to finally gets a taste of his own medicine. And she goes, what has he been doing? And he explains what Monoma does to Class 1A and how he thinks that Class 1A is weaker than Class 1B. But when it really comes to strength and strategy, Class 1B and Class 1A are the same. It's just one's the letter A and one's the letter B. And she goes, okay, I understand. And so she just continues cooking, and soon every classroom, every person in UA has had one of her dishes. And by this time, Class 1A and the teachers of UA have had the cake that she specifically made for all of them. And then she says that she's going to bake a small cake for each of the classes. And when she says small, she means a 5x5 cake. 5 foot by 5 foot. And then she says, I'm going to make you a level 2 cake for Monoma. And Baku, he pales at this going, sweetie, I think that's a little too much. And she goes, nonsense. If he thinks he's better than you, he can take a bite of the level 2 cake, and you can take a bite of the level 2 cake. And if he thinks he's really better than you, he'll be able to survive and not be critically injured by this. And he goes, I still think we shouldn't do a level 2. 1.5. And she goes, but what about all the fun we have with level 2s? And he goes, I know, 1.5 is perfectly fine. And Class 1A is hearing Bakugo, the angry Pomeranian of the class, the one who says that everybody else is extras compared to him, talking to this little, in this case, little girl, because she's a lot shorter than everybody, and talking her down from potentially killing somebody with spicy food, or potentially harming them with spicy food. And they're like, what is Bakugo on? And 5 to 10 minutes later, she's like, fine, I'll make him a level 1.5. No, 1.75. And Buck goes, no, level 1.5 is fine. It's fine. And he slowly is getting closer to her, embracing her, and she goes, but, and she just looks down, sad. And all the rest of the class, that's one, and A is like, we'll eat another level 2 dish, and we'll eat a negative 10 dish too. Completely. And she looks at them and goes, and Bakugo's like, Izumi, you don't need to do this. And she goes, they said they would. They said they would eat a level 2 dish and a level negative 10 dish. And he goes, I know. But, okay, how about this? You cook them a level negative 5 dish, and I'll eat the level 10 dish. The level, 2 level 10 dishes. And she goes, you promise? And he goes, yes, I promise. So they'll eat a level 2 dish and a level negative 5 dish. And then I'll have 2 level 10 dishes. And she goes, okay. And she cooks a level 10 dish for Bakugo first. Then she cooks a level 2 dish for the rest of the class. And then the class is like, okay, we're ready for the other dish. And she goes, let that one sit for a few seconds. And they go, okay. And so 10-ish minutes later, after they socialize, they're mainly talking about boys and how Izumi and Bakugo met. And Bakugo kept being like, oi, stay out of our personal life. And Izumi's like, that's not that bad. And Bakugo's like, stop talking about our personal life. And she goes, so how we met was my mother and his mother are friends, and we've been childhood friends ever since. And so she keeps talking about the stories of them in childhood, about how Bakugo, when he first tasted her dishes, said that they're too sweet and that they're never going to be good. And how the very first cake that she ever baked, he said was disgusting, and how he said his mother made it look like a disgusting uh, piece of garbage. And she starts looking at Bakugo with this murderous intent and saying, but then his mother said it was me who made it, and it was my first baking cake alone. And he immediately turned to me and said sorry, and tried to hug me, and I said no, and ran away from him, and that's how he fell for me immediately. And they go, so Bakugo, the anger, and they say, this might hurt your feelings, but this is what he is in class. The angry Pomeranian. And she starts to giggle, being like, yeah, he's kind of a Pomeranian. Angry, misunderstood, yeah. And they go, he calls us extras every day. And she goes, yeah, he called me Deku for 6 years after I got my quirk evaluated. And they go, what is your quirk? And she goes, and she looks at Bakugo, and Bakugo's just shaking his head. No, don't say it. She goes, I'd prefer to keep that a secret. And they go, oh, but it would be cool to know what your quirk is. And she goes, I know, but still, prefer to keep it a secret. And they go, fine. And she walks up to Bakugo and says, time to go to bed. And he goes, but fine. Okay, fine. And they go, what is with her and Bakugo? And Aizawa says, before they leave, can I tell them? And Izumi says, sure, and drags Bakugo into his room while he's yelling, don't you dare tell them. And once Izumi locks the door, they hear a scream from behind the door from Bakugo. And then they hear it cut off all of a sudden. They're like, did you make his room soundproof? And Aizawa goes, yeah, we knew this day would come. And they go, why? What? And he says that they're engaged, and they've been engaged for the last 6-ish years. And they go, oh, okay. So what's her quirk? And he says, her quirk, it's kind of funny, but her quirk is called Ego Tamer. The downside of her quirk is that she has enough power to obliterate this world if she so desires, but she has a low ego and self-esteem when she's not around the people she loves. And that's why she has those rules. Because when she's near the people she loves, she can follow the rules super easy and take stuff to heart that normal people say to each other to mess with other people. And they're like, so what does Ego Tamer even do? And he goes, everybody who has an ego near her has the effects of their ego, but they can't act upon them. So Bakugo can't, without effort, call you extras. So that's why he calls him Shitty Hair, her Pinky, and the other ones of you random names. And he walks up to the door, and he hears it, and he goes, and she's very sadistic at times. And he walks back and goes, so is my wife. And Midnight gets a ding on her phone saying, he's talking about you. And she goes, So she walks to the 1A dorms and says, Aizawa, I need to talk to you. And he goes, crap. And she also has super hearing, super smell, super her taste, and super strength, speed. Well, I'm gone. And he zips up in his caterpillar mode and jumps into the extra closet that's supposed to be hidden. And he presses the button that's in the closet, and the door disappears. And they see this, and they're like, what the hell's going on? And Midnight knocks on the door kindly after she said, Aizawa, please come here. And Kirishima says, oh, hello, Midnight. You just missed Aizawa. And she goes, I know. And she walks into the kitchen and she presses a button and the door shows itself. And she opens the door and she presses the button on the inside of the door and the door closes itself, making it soundproof. But not that soundproof. So they hear a scream from Aizawa. Like, oh God. And I'm going to end it there. Hopefully this was a little funny. If you guys liked it, like the video. If you guys like my content and want some more funny jokes like this, because I'm going to do some stuff like this every once in a while. I will get an idea like this, and hopefully you guys think it's funny, because I thought this was freaking hilarious. There was a Valentine's one where it was trans femme deku with a bakugo ship. And it was really interesting because it was female deku with a Katsuki bakugo, but she had to act like a man in her bakery because the prejudice against females in Japan. Because there is still prejudice against females in Japan. I don't know why, but yeah. So I just wanted to put a little spin on it, and I thought it was freaking funny. Or quirk at the end. Ego tamer. So if you guys liked it, comment what you liked about it. If you guys didn't like it, tell me what I could do next time if I make another one of these. Another one shot that is just like a side story. So hopefully you guys liked it. Talk to you later. Bye.